Well, this race started out good, and then it went to shit. Let's get into it. This is the fuel. What's happening, ladies and germs? This is the Packerman, and welcome to today's edition of the Fuel, where today we're going to be talking about the 2020 Foxwoods Casino Resort, or Resort Casino, however the fuck you want to pronounce it, 301 at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. I would imagine this is going to be quite the long episode because there's a shit ton of stuff we got to talk about, and it is raining pretty heavily right now in my neck of the woods. So hopefully the fucking power doesn't go out while I'm doing this. That would suck some major ass. But give me 1 second here. Let me open up my notes here, because there is quite a bit of stuff to talk about this week. The news of the week, and there's also some things that I want to talk about, and as it pertains to next year in terms of silly season. You know, just highlight some drivers and see where they might end up or whatnot. So, first and foremost, what did I think of this race? Oh, so much potential. The first 2 stages of this race was pretty damn excellent. And I was thinking, damn, if we could get a stage kind of like stage 2 in a way, but with an ending like stage 2, then this race could have easily gotten a mid to high 8, maybe even a 9. And I so desperately wanted to give this race a 9. Unfortunately, the third stage was ass nuggets. It was boring as hell. And that's a shame, because this race, those first 2 stages, that first stage especially, it kicked all sorts of ass. But as per the usual, way too many caution flags due to too many freaking tire failures from Goodyear. Where have we heard that before? But before we get into all that, though, it's really starting to rain right now. But before we get into all that, let's go ahead and dive into the news of the week. Man, she's really coming down now. My cat's sitting on the couch over there. What the fuck I'm doing? Alright, sit kitty. Myself a drink, because I have a feeling I'm going to need it. So anywho, let's go ahead and there's a freaking fly in here. Let's go ahead and get into the news of the week, and there's quite a bit. One of the biggest things that came out of the previous week, before the race at Kansas, previous Thursday night, was the fact that NASCAR had announced that they were not going to have any more qualifying or practice for the remainder of the year, which certainly raised some eyebrows. But their official, what do you call it? The official, damn it, I'm trying to think of what this is called. The official statement, there we go. Took me a second. If you can't tell, I'm a little bit tired. But the official statement from Scott Miller, NASCAR Senior Vice President of Competition, states that following discussions with our race teams and the broader industry, NASCAR will continue to conduct its race weekends without practice or qualifying for the remainder of the 2020 season in all 3 national series. The current format has worked well in addressing several challenges during our return to racing. Most importantly, Excuse me. We have seen competitive racing week to week. That's kind of questionable. Well, debatable, I should say. NASCAR will adjust the starting lineup draw procedure for the playoff races and will announce the new process at a later date. Well, the problem is, when you have a field of 16 drivers, in the playoff, having a draw procedure for the playoff, it just, I don't know. It just makes it really, really skewed in favor of those who have basically dominated, the season, like guys like Kevin Harvick and Denny Hamlin, who have accrued a large number of playoff points, and this is just going to skew it even more in their favor. So if you don't want to have practice, that's fine. But no qualifying for playoff races in particular, when IndyCar has been doing it with no problem. I don't know. I don't agree with the practice I can understand to some extent, although considering that they're going to the Daytona road course in a couple weeks, I don't agree with them not having practice, at the very least for the Daytona road course, which drivers have been lobbying for, but NASCAR has been really digging their heels in on, which is like, why the fuck are you doing that, It's like, you're putting these guys onto a racetrack for the first time. And not only that, we're going to get to that actually, I'm going to hold off on that. We're going to get to that in a minute, because I'm going to be talking about that particular race. But yeah, I'm not a fan of them not having qualifying for the playoffs in particular. Practice I can understand, unless you're Kyle Busch. but qualifying, I don't really agree with that. Yeah, just my opinion on that one. Over to IndyCar for a moment. There was going to be a race scheduled for Mid-Ohio this coming weekend. The Honda Indy 200 at Mid-Ohio, which is scheduled for August 7th through the 9th. Unfortunately, due to the fact that COVID-19 has really flared up here in the state of Ohio, IndyCar and the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course have agreed to postpone the Honda Indy 200 at Mid-Ohio, scheduled for August 7th through the 9th, until a date to be determined in September or October. This decision was made through communication with local health officials, given the current environment. Our team continues to work with all of our partners and our local government to identify a date later this year when we can host the Honda Indy 200 at Mid-Ohio. More information will be forthcoming as it becomes available. Visit midohio.com for ongoing updates. We appreciate the patience and understanding of our fans as we navigate this postponement. Of course, this is just, kind of an ongoing thing all freaking year, for all forms of sports, not just NASCAR and IndyCar, but, the NBA is finally starting back up. The NHL is doing a round-robin style playoff for the Stanley Cup this year. Baseball is trying to start back up, but they've suffered some setbacks. So, as much as it sucks, I can understand them, having to postpone the race, considering that the number of infections in Ohio has gone up in recent weeks, unfortunately. So, it was kind of inevitable that was going to happen. It just kind of sucks. What else really kind of sucked this past couple weeks is that the NASCAR world has lost a few notable people in the community. One second. In particular, first off, Brandon White, you should be seeing on your screen right now. He was a driver in the NASCAR Pinty series, I believe, a long-time mainstay, I think, in that series. Unfortunately, he lost his battle with cancer, which does hit kind of close to home for me, because my grandmother, before she passed, was battling pancreatic cancer. Um, so that definitely hits a little bit close to home for me. But there were a couple other big-time mainstays in NASCAR that passed away this past couple weeks. One of which was Bob Bear, the previous owner of the New Hampshire Motor Speedway, which we're going to be reviewing the race for here in a little bit. He passed away at the age of 93. So, I mean, you can't say that he didn't live a long-ass life, I'll tell you that much, and a much fulfilled one. I mean, he was able to bring, big-time, stock car racing to New England with the building of New Hampshire Motor Speedway, and he will be missed for sure. And he was honored quite a bit this weekend for obvious reasons, with NASCAR being in at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. But maybe one of the biggest ones of them all, but definitely probably the greatest engineer in NASCAR history, Maurice Petty, passed away at the age of 81. Of course, Maurice, a Hall of Fame engine builder, and the brother of Richard Petty. And of course, he was responsible for pretty much every one of Richard's wins. I mean, he was basically the engine builder. He also served as crew chief, and of course, he was a Daytona 500 winning crew chief with Pete Hamilton when Petty Enterprises went to 2 cars for select races in 1970, and Pete Hamilton actually ended up winning the Daytona 500 that year, and Maurice Petty was the crew chief. So he had his hand in pretty much everything, and he was inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame a couple years ago. So it really sucks that he passed on, but much like Bob Bear, he lived a long and fruitful life, and my condolences with Brandon White's family, Bob Bear's family, and the Petty family during this difficult time. Moving on from the sad news. First, before we get to this Daytona road course race that's going to be happening in a couple weeks, let's talk about something that popped up this weekend in terms of the whole silly season deal. Bubba Wallace. His name has really been popping up in recent weeks as potential drivers, as a potential driver for several potential vacancies heading into the 2021 season. Now, obviously, Richard Petty Motorsports would love to keep him as a part of and keep him as part of the 43 team. So, one of the this offer just kind of blows my mind a little bit, because it's like they really want to keep Bubba Wallace on board to drive the 43 car, so much so that they offered him team ownership. Yeah. Basically, if he re-signs with the 43 team, they have offered him a stake in ownership. I'm not going to lie, I mean, he says that there's a lot of other offers on the table for him as well, including a rumor that he might be in line to slot into the 42 car next year for Chip Ganassi Racing, because obviously Matt Kenseth, I mean, this was just, a one-year deal, come out of retirement to kind of fill the void after they had to let Kyle Larson go for, the thing that happened earlier this year. So obviously Matt Kenseth is not going to be in that 42 car forever. So a lot of people are pegging Bubba Wallace to take over that 42 car. But, I mean, team ownership is a tempting deal. I mean, it's one thing to be a driver of a car, but to not only be able to drive the famous 43 car, but to be part owner of it, that's tempting. I'm not going to lie, but Bubba said that he's going to basically look at everything that's on the table before he comes to a decision, which, you know, I don't blame him. You know, because his name has been popping up on a lot of teams' radars recently, and he wants to take a look at every single thing that he can before he makes a final decision on what he wants to do. And I don't blame him. You know, shop around. You know, study the market. You know, who knows what the fuck's gonna happen? You know what I mean? You know, maybe he will end up, at Chip Ganassi Racing. God, maybe he could end up at the 48 team. That would be something. Because Brad Keselowski's not going to be driving that 48 car next year because after he won the race today at New Hampshire, spoiler alert, I guess that was the one that finally did it because him and Team Penske, finally signed that contract extension. They finally agreed to a deal, and it's like, it's about freaking time, man. You know what I mean? Sorry, I'm looking at Wreckfest. Previous season just ended as far as tournaments go, and now they've just started season 4. That's called Summer Smasher. Let's see what the hell's going on with that. But, anyway, getting back to the topic at hand. So it's pretty obvious that Brad Keselowski is not going to be driving the 48 car next year. He's staying with Team Penske. It's pretty much the only Cup team he's been a part of. And Roger Penske, I mean, he would have been an idiot not to re-sign Brad Keselowski. I mean, honestly. I mean, the dude has 3 wins this year. He's obviously, he was a hot free agent. This was a contract year. I mean, he would have been an idiot not to re-sign Brad K. Especially when he's going to be contending for a championship this year. He's certainly emerged as, the third big contender, alongside Kevin Harvick and Denny Hamlin. But who knows what Bubba Wallace is going to do? Getting back to him, I mean, he says he has some offers on the table, and RPM offered him a stake in ownership. That's a tempting prospect, man. Lord knows that'd be hard for me to turn down. I mean, to be fair, he has had an uptick in performance this year, especially compared to the previous 2 years. I mean, he's been logging some top 10s, but also he's been nabbing some top 15s. And to his credit, he is top 20 in points, for what it's worth. So, I mean, he's probably going to need a win to get into the playoff, but they are going to Daytona, Big Oval, for the season finale, where anything can happen. So, but speaking of Daytona, they revealed the layout for the Daytona International Speedway road course for Sunday, August the 16th. And they have approved rain tires for that race. And bear in mind, we've had rain races in the Xfinity Series. We haven't yet had one in the Cup Series. Well, we have a chance this year. Because, Florida's it's been known for its wet weather, especially in late summer. So we'll have to wait and see. But I would be interested to see how they handle wet weather. But, the circuit is basically the same as the one that's used for the Rolex 24. They go through the tri-oval, then they dive down into the infield. There's a couple of hairpin turns, and it leads back onto the main oval. Of course, they have the backstretch chicane. But they've added something for the stock cars. Coming off of turn 4, they are going to add a second chicane. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, why the hell are they doing that? Well, they say it's for safety reasons, and I can kind of see where they're coming from here because, when you're coming off of the backstretch chicane, you're into Daytona turn 3 and 4. You're basically flat-footing it all the way around. So without that chicane off of turn 4, the stock cars are basically going to be roaring towards 160, 170 miles an hour, heading towards a very sharp turn, left-hand turn in turn 1, heading down into the infield. And let's be completely honest here, people. The brakes on these 3,400-pound stock cars, they don't really work all that well. They don't stop on a dime. So I can kind of understand where they're coming from with that chicane. Of course, it would probably also help if they would give them at least one goddamn practice session, you know, to prepare for this race. But in addition to not giving them any practice, they have also limited all drivers to just one event for the entire weekend. The trucks are going to be there. The Xfinity Series is going to be there. I think ARCA is going to be there too. And of course the Cup Series. But to prevent any sort of advantage for any driver, you can't enter any other event other than one. I mean, I know they want to keep a level playing field, but I think they're looking a little too far into this. I mean, you know, going into, I mean, and here's the other thing. This is a brand new circuit for the Cup Series. They have never run on the road course before in NASCAR. Never. They've only run the big oval. Not even for the Clash, which they were going to do next year. Starting next year, they're going to run the road course. But with Watkins Glen, you know, having to be dropped from the schedule this year because New York is basically a COVID hotbed right now, they had to switch that event to the Daytona road course because they wanted to have at least 2 road courses this year. But the problem with that is this is a brand spanking new track that these guys are going to. They're going to have no idea whatsoever what their braking points are, you know, how to enter the turns, what kind of angles they need to enter the turns at in these heavy-ass stock cars with blind spots everywhere. And you're going to send these guys onto the track with no practice? I mean, do I have to tell you how fucking mental that is? I mean, seriously. This is a disaster waiting to happen. I mean, this is not like the Charlotte road course, you know, where they had major problems in practice, but they adjusted. And then the next year they, you know, the big problem was the backstretch chicane, but they alleviated that problem in that second year. But throwing these guys onto the Daytona road course with no practice whatsoever, that's creating an Edsel. A lemon. A disaster waiting to happen. I mean, it's... If anything, it's going to be interesting to watch because this is going to be an historic event, one way or the other. For the right or the wrong reasons, it remains to be seen. And that's pretty much it for news of the week. But before we get to all that, I do want to talk real quick, and this can be considered newsworthy, I guess, about some drivers who might be going to where, I mean, looking at the point standings as they are right now, I mean, you got guys like Kevin Harvick and Brad Keselowski and Denny Hamlin and Ryan Blaney and Chase Elliott, Joey Logano, Martin Truex Jr. Those guys aren't going anywhere. I mean, Kevin Harvick, I mean, him and Tony Stewart are like this. There is no way on God's green earth he's going to be driving for anybody else for the rest of his career. He has no reason to. I mean, him and Rodney Childress, I mean, in that 4 team have been pretty much on fire this entire season. I mean, 20 races. As my Xbox talks to me again. But 20 races, 4 wins, 13 top 5s, 17 top 10s, 706 laps led. He's only had 2 stage wins, believe it or not. But he does have those 4 wins, and he leads the regular season standings by 81 points, which means that he could clinch the regular season title before the season's final regular season race. And that comes with it 15 bonus playoff points, which is a pretty big deal. Brad Keselowski, you know, we talked about him just a second ago with his 3rd win of the year coming at New Hampshire. They finally inked that deal for a contract extension. Details were not made available, but we do know that they did extend Brad K's contract. I would not be the least bit surprised if it's a multi-year deal, which it should be. Because considering, all that Brad K has done for that 2 car, there were a lot of rumors speculating that he was going to be going to the 48 team, and then they were going to move, what's his name? Austin Cindric, up from the Xfinity Series to the 2 Cup team. But Brad K is going to be staying in that 2 car for the foreseeable future. And Denny Hamlin's not going anywhere either. A lot of people thought that he was going to be out the door after 2018 because of, he had pretty much a down year, which Kyle Busch is kind of going through this year after winning the championship last year. But Kyle Busch, he's not going to go anywhere. Yeah, he's having a down year this year, but it happens. Every driver, every once in a while, even especially those that have been dominant, they're going to have a down year every once in a while. Kyle Busch is going through it right now. Denny Hamlin went through it in 2018, and a lot of people were speculating he was going to be dropped in that 11 car. But then he reeled off 5 wins last year and made it to the championship 4. And this year, he has 5 wins, and we're not even to the playoff yet. And he also won the Daytona 500 for a 3rd time. He's not going anywhere. And I don't think Ryan Blaney is either. Yeah, he probably should have more wins than just the one at Talladega, but, that's mainly due to bad luck for him. But, considering the fact that he's still 4th in the point standings, he may only have 1 win, 7 top 5s, and 9 top 10s out of 20 starts, but he's been finishing high in stages, and that's extra stage points. And as a result, he is 4th in the championship. Same with Chase Elliott. He's been going through a little bit of slump recently, but he's still top 5 in points, which is still pretty damn good. Joey Logano, Martin Truex Jr. Truex, he only has the 1 win at Martinsville, but he's still been competitive, and he's still top 10 in points. Eric Almirola, I don't think he's going to go anywhere, even though he hasn't won yet this year. That 10 car has hit its stride. He has a streak of 9 consecutive top 10s. Shit. You know what I mean? Kurt Busch. Isn't this his first year at Chip Ganassi? I can't remember. No, this is his 2nd year. He has 12 top 10s, and he's 9th in points. Chip Ganassi's not exactly known as the best team in the Cup Series, but he's 9th in points in that 1 car. It's pretty damn good. Of course, his brother Kyle is still 10th in points overall. He's just had a lot of bad luck this year. Alex Bowman, of course, with a win, hasn't really shown the performances that he had earlier this year. But I think they said I think they signed another 1-year deal for him. I think he's going to be back behind the 88 car next year. Then we get to the guy 12th in points, Clint Bowyer. Let's be completely honest here. I think his time at SHR is rapidly coming to an end. I think he's in his mid-40s now. Of course, Kevin Harvick's in his mid-40s, but it seems like Father Time has turned a blind eye to Kevin Harvick. Considering how good Harvick's been. But Bowyer, he has just not shown the potential, from his early days. And he was basically a wrecking ball of sorts at New Hampshire. Yeah, he's 12th in points. He's probably going to make it into the playoff, but, this is a similar situation to what we saw last year with Clint Bowyer. The possibility of a first-round exit. Now, to his credit, he did make it to the round of 12, but, I don't foresee him making it very far in the playoff this year. Matt DiBenedetto in the 21 car. This is his first year, of course, driving for the Wood Brothers. And I'd say he's doing a pretty good job, all things considered. Step up from the 95 car into the 21 car, and he's top 15 in points. Yeah, he has just 6 top 10s, but, he's had a lot of good runs, honestly. He had a lot of potential top 5 runs that were ruined by dumb mistakes at Texas. But I think he's definitely doing a good job in his first year in that 21 car. and I'll have to wait and see what next year brings. I think he's on a 1-year deal, but I think they're going to want to resign DiBenedetto. William Byron, I'm not really sure about him. I mean, he shows flashes of brilliance at times, but I don't know. I mean, you'd think with a crew chief like Chad Knaus, you know, you would think that, you know, he would be doing better than he is. But at the current moment, in his 3rd year driving for that 24 car, he has only amassed 6 top 10s and no top 5s. And he's 14th in points. He's basically, I mean, if you look at the if you look at the adjusted standings, he's only 15 points to the good. And he's basically in the last spot, you know, when you adjust the points. Because, of course, when you have Austin Dillon and Cole Custer, you know, right there on the cut line, and they have a win, you know, that certainly jumbles things up a little bit. But then there's Tyler Reddick, who's one of the Rookie of the Year contenders. He's done a yeoman's job in that 8 car, because let's be completely honest here. Last year, that 8 car with Daniel Hemrick was dog meat. It really was. And he has turned that team around. It is impressive. You know, he has 7 top 10s, 2 top 5 finishes, got his best career finish in Texas, and held off some very good drivers on old tires, which was very impressive. And of course, he's a guy who won back-to-back Xfinity titles, driving for 2 different teams. You know, and a lot of people thought he backed into the 2018 title for when he was driving for Junior Motorsports, when he bookended, you know, wins at the beginning of the season and the end of the season. But then the next year, he's like, oh, you thought it was a fluke? How about this? And he goes out, wins like 5 races, and, you know, wins the championship. So I would say Reddick's got a lot of potential in that 8 car. Austin Dillon, he's not going anywhere. I mean, his grandfather owns the fucking team. You know what I mean? He's not going anywhere. Of course, Jimmy Johnson, he's retiring at the end of this year. Well, he's retiring from full-time competition. Johnson has hinted that he might be scaling back to part-time next year. He might come back for some part-time next year. And then we come to Cole Custer. He's not going anywhere. I mean, this is his rookie year in the 41 car. And while the first half of this year has been less than kind to him, that 41 team has actually started to put it together. I mean, he's been in the top 10 for the last 5 races, I believe. And, of course, he's only led 5 laps this year, but one of those laps was the last one at Kentucky. So, and that's really the only one that matters, you know. So, as a result, he's into the playoff by virtue of the fact that he got that win, despite the fact that he's 19th in points. And then we come to Eric Jones. This is his 4th year in the Cup Series. Of course, his first year was driving the 2nd car for Furniture Row. And then, of course, he got put into the 20 car. He has not lived up to his potential, you know, especially considering the team that he drives for. I mean, yeah, he has 8 top 10s this year, but his tenure with the 20 team has been strewn with a lot of mistakes, a lot of mental errors. I mean, at New Hampshire, he got penalized for pitting out of the box early in the race and ended up 24th. So, I mean, at this point, he's 18th in points overall. He's 31 outside the cut line. I mean, I think regardless if he wins sometime this year or makes the playoff, I think his time at Joe Gibbs Racing is coming to an end. I mean, he's had 3 years to, you know, improve, and he just hasn't shown that improvement. I mean, yeah, he has the 2 big wins at Daytona and the Southern 500 last year, but, I mean, outside of those, what has he really done? I mean, yeah, he made the playoffs the last 2 years, but those were first-round exits. Now, granted, I think last year was more bad luck than anything else, but the point still stands. And then this year, he's 18th in points. I mean, he's not going to be a champ. I mean, it doesn't matter if he makes the playoff or not. He's not contending for a championship. You know, and I think I had that argument last year. Now, who might slide into that 20 car? Well, considering the fact that Levine Family Racing is up for sale right now, and considering the fact that they loaned him to Levine Family Racing, I would say Joe Gibbs Racing is going to be giving Christopher Bell a call before the end of this year, because I think Bell has been destined for that 20 car for several years now. I mean, let's be completely honest here. The dude can fucking wheel a race car. I mean, yeah, he's not in the top 20 in points, but a lot of the times he's had some mechanical failures. I mean, at New Hampshire, he was a top 5 car legit. I mean, he was driving up there and challenging with the likes of Harvick and Hamlin at one point, but back-to-back, tire failures, kind of ruined his run. But he was a real contender at New Hampshire this week. So I think he's going to slot into that 20 car in 2021. I mean, he's been destined for it for several years. I mean, I think he won the truck championship a couple years ago, made the championship for back-to-back years in the Xfinity Series, driving the 20 car, has a stupid number of wins in just 2 years. I mean, the dude has a lot of potential, and I think he is the perfect guy to put in that 20 car, because let's be honest here, that 20 team needs a reboot. It really does. And I don't think Eric Jones is the guy to drive that car. I mean, I like Eric Jones. I want to see him succeed, but he's just not getting the job done. And he's had 3 years to try to get it done. And I remember Darrell Waltrip once saying during the 2003 Aaron's 499, there's only so many excuses that you can give as to why you're not performing. And once you've used them all up, it's the next thing to go. So I think Eric Jones, he's going to be looking for a ride next year. Where he'll end up, I don't know. But my money is going to be on Christopher Bell slotting into that 20 car next year. But that's some of my thoughts on some of the silly season shit that is going on right now. Just some thoughts and, opinions, because it is a pretty interesting thing to talk about. Especially at this point in the year where we're getting ready to run into the playoff. But now that all that's out of the way, we can finally put all that to the side. Let's go ahead and get into this fucking review, shall we? Alright, so here is our review of the 2020 Foxwoods Resort Casino 301 at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. So the stages were a little weird this week. Stage 1 was 75 laps, Stage 2 110 laps, Stage 3 was 116 laps, with the halfway point being 151, which at one point looked like it was going to come into question because during Stage 1 there was actually a pretty significant rainstorm that was heading their way. Fortunately, it broke apart right before it got to them. It did rain on the track a little bit, but fortunately they did not lose the track, which would have sucked. And they actually managed to get the whole race in, so that's a good thing. But let's go ahead and get into it. Eric Almirola drew the pole for the race yet again. So Stage 1, 75 laps. Eric Almirola led lap 1. Kez challenged for the lead and took it off of turn 1 for a first pure lead change on lap 3. Hamlin pushes Boyer up the track in turn 3. There were actually several drivers that went up the track in turns 3 and 4 due to lack of grip. Kurt Busch was one of those. Kyle Busch starts challenging Denny Hamlin for third. And of course, I made the no rain may be an issue today because I saw that on Twitter. Blaney goes up the track in turns 3 and 4, and it's like turn 3 seems to be Calamity Corner at the moment. And then caution number 1 on lap 17. Kyle Busch loses the right front tire after scraping the wall. As it turned out, though, he actually ran over some debris and lost the right front tire and hit the turn 3 wall hard. And he was put out of the race very, very early. So his shit here continues. Most of the field comes in, but they can't take fuel until the competition caution on lap 30. So Kez leads on the restart. William Byron gets shoved up in turn 3 by Clint Boyer, who is just driving absolutely reckless in this race. We get our second caution on lap 31, which was the competition caution. Several drivers come in for service. Kez leads on the restarts. Had lots of double wide action in the mid-pack. Hamlin challenges Kez for the lead with Blaney trailing in third. And lots of 3 wide in the mid-pack. So it was very, very racy in the first stage. Probably because of the rain, I would say. I'm pretty sure they had their crew chiefs in their ear saying, hey, you know, rain is a little ways out. You know, this may go to halfway. So we have a 3-way fight for the lead between Kez, Hamlin, and Blaney. And this was just absolutely awesome. You know, just these 3 guys just swapping back and forth, you know, trying to feel each other out, you know, the whole 9 yards. Blaney gets by Hamlin for second. The top 3, they went to commercial break, I think, after that, and then when they come back, they're still under a blanket for the lead. So, great racing between the 2 and 12 for the race lead. Teammates, of course, Hamlin nudges Blaney out of the way for second, and then gives a nudge to Keselowski to take the race lead away for a second pure lead change on lap 58. But then Keselowski comes back with a crossover move and gets the lead right back for a third pure lead change on lap 59. But then Hamlin gets another run underneath of Keselowski in turn 1 and retakes the lead. Our fourth pure lead change on lap 61. And I'm like, damn, this is a damn good fight for the lead. And as these 3 guys were fighting it out for the lead, Matt DiBenedetto was coming up behind and making this a 4-way dance. Unfortunately, the third caution came out on lap 64, which kind of put it to a halt when Jimmy Johnson spun off of turn 2 after contact with Clint Bowyer. He actually had a run underneath of Clint Bowyer coming off of turn 2, but Bowyer, he had such a run that I don't think Bowyer realized that he was there and kind of cut across Johnson's right front, which spun him out. And Johnson was none too happy with Clint Bowyer on that one. Leaders coming for service. Hamlin wins the race off pit road. Blaney stays out, leads on the restart. His idea was to stay out and basically win the stage and get the playoff point. But Hamlin said, fuck that noise, and showed how good 4 tires can be at New Hampshire when he just blows by Blaney for the lead on the fresh tires. I mean, he started a little bit back in the pack because there were some other drivers that stayed out, but Hamlin had such a good car and had, you know, the fresh tires, they just basically made mincemeat of the guys that didn't take tires. So we had our 5th pure lead change on lap 70. We're only 1 stage in and we're already at 5 pure lead changes. Damn. Truex makes it up to second. Harvick gets by Blaney for third. Christopher Bell and Kez get by Blaney for 4th and 5th as the old tires slide backwards. And Denny Hamlin wins stage number 1. At this point, I tweeted out that was an excellent first stage. It really was. Several drivers coming for service, so we go to stage number 2, which was 110 laps. Hamlin leads the start of stage 2. Truex with a run underneath of Hamlin for the lead, but can't get by. Harvick gets by Christopher Bell for the 3rd position. There was a freaking hornet's nest in the back as the battle for 3rd heats up between like 4 or 5 cars. They were all kind of clustered together. It was insane. Kez nudges Bell out of the way for the 4th position. Then we get our 4th caution on lap 94 for rain. There was a bit of rain in the area and come over the racetrack. Fortunately, it was just a brief shower and they never lost the track. So they kept the cars going around and eventually it went away and we didn't see another drop of rain for the rest of the race. Yay! So yeah, I mean, the cars are still going around. Most everyone comes in for service. Harvick actually decides to stay out, which would turn out to be a not so good move for him later on in the stage. Truex gets penalized for an uncontrolled tire, which really sucks. And racing can continue, so Harvick leads on the restarts. Hamlin once again comes back to the field on the fresh tires and easily passes Harvick for the race lead for a 6th pure lead change on lap 104. Logano gets by Harvick for 2nd, so we have Logano in 2nd. Keselowski gets by Harvick for 3rd. So the Penske guys are chasing Hamlin once again. Hamlin extends his lead to 1 second after 125 laps. Kez gets by Logano for the 2nd position. Logano starts reporting a fading brake pedal, maybe due to overheating brake fluid. Almirola gets by Harvick for 4th. Kez closing the gap on Hamlin for the lead and begins challenging him on lap 141. He gets around him on lap 142, but Hamlin gets back by him the very next lap for a 7th and 8th pure lead changes of the day. In both instances, they used lap cars as a pick. Brad Keselowski on lap 142, and then Denny Hamlin did the same thing on lap 143. Great minds think alike, I guess. And then 3 laps later, Brad Keselowski would take the lead back once again when Hamlin scrapes the wall just a teensy bit off of 2, and that allowed Kes to retake the lead. Our 9th pure lead change on lap 146. And we reached halfway, woohoo! Which means even if it did rain, this race is now official. Almirola was terror-assing through the field at this point. He was more than 7 seconds behind at one point. He had cut it down to 3.5, which was impressive. Things start settling down quite a bit at the end of stage 2. And then Harvick has to pit under green with 19 to go in stage 2 for fuel, which would end up biting him in the ass. Because we have our 5th caution on lap 172 when Christopher Bell spins in turn 2, and Blaney was on pit road as well, but fortunately he was already on pit road before the caution came out. And as it turned out, Bell lost a right rear tire, which would not be the last time that happened. Everyone comes in for service. Austin Dillon decides to take just 2 tires and wins the race off of pit road. Turned out to not be a good decision. Dillon leads on the restart. Kes gets underneath him and takes the lead on the restart, but then we get our 6th caution on lap 179. When Matt Kenseth gets spun down the backstretch after he gets up into his teammate Kurt Busch. No other damage though, at least not yet. And then we have Kes leading on the restart with 2 laps to go in stage 2. Hamlin manages to grab the lead on the restart, but then Kes fights back on the last lap of the stage. And Keselowski wins stage number 2 and a bit of a photo finish. For our 10th pure lead change on lap 185. We're 2 stages in, and we have 10 pure lead changes. And a flat 1 mile oval. Just what? But I'm not complaining, because it was awesome racing. So we get to the 3rd and final stage, which was 116 laps. Kes leads the start of stage 3. Hamlin, Kes, and Almirola go 3 wide for the lead, which was pretty crazy. Hamlin leads the lap after the restart. Kes fights back on the inside, but Hamlin holds him at bay. William Byron makes it up to 3rd as he fights his way into the mix. Then we have our 7th caution on lap 197 when Matt Kenseth blows a right front tire in turn 3. Logano comes down pit road for service, as does Blaney and Harvick. Hamlin leads on the restarts. Keselowski motors by Hamlin for the lead in turn 1. Byron challenges Hamlin for 2nd. Hamlin and Byron closes back in on Keselowski. Then we get our 8th and actually it's not our final caution. Our 8th caution on lap 205 when Kenseth loses yet another right front tire, and this time he says, "Fuck it, I'm done. I'm going to the garage." Leaders coming for service. Elliott decides to stay out and leads on the restart. Hamlin starts trying to bull rush back to the field. And then we get our 9th caution on lap 214. So the caution's really coming now. And John Hunter Nemechek this time with a tire failure. A left front tire failure this time. And slams the turn 3 wall. Goodyear. Seriously. Make a good fucking tire for once. These tire failures are fucking ridiculous. Seriously. So the guys who didn't pit the last time have to come in this time. So Hamlin leads on the restart. And then we get our longest green flag run of the race. Keselowski challenges Hamlin for the lead once again and takes it for our 11th pure lead change on lap 221. Damn, I don't know if you heard that one, but that was a big old boom of thunder. Lots of battling back in the pack. Hamlin starts battling Kes for the lead once again. Truex gets by Logano for 3rd. There was a great cat and mouse game playing out between Kes and Hamlin for a while. But then Kes extends the lead to 1 second with 60 laps to go. And from that point on, he was never challenged again. He basically extended the lead to about 3 seconds and basically held it there for the rest of the race. These last 60 laps were boring as shit. Bell has another flat right rear tire. And I'm just like, these tire failures are fucking ridiculous. They tried to say that fuel might have been an issue at some point, but these guys are too good at saving fuel nowadays. and fuel mileage races rarely come into play anymore. So at this point, I'm going to say, yeah, this run of race has been pretty dull. We have a four-way battle for ninth between Johnson, Elliott, Byron, and Reddick, which was actually pretty decent near the end of the race. But that was basically all she wrote. Brad Keselowski wins the Foxwoods Resort Casino 301 at New Hampshire. So, yep, this race started with a bang and ends with a whimper. Hence the name of the episode. Well, that's your review. So, overall lead change count. There were 22 overall lead changes in this race. And even though the pure lead change count kind of stalled in the third and final stage, we ended up with 11 pure lead changes in this race on a flat 1 mile oval. That's pretty impressive. It's my cat is meowing for some reason. So, star of the race. There's really only one. That's Brad Keselowski. What do you want, cat? Where you at? Silly cat. But Brad Keselowski is the star of the race. I mean, he led the most laps. You know, nominated the race, got his third win of the year, and got a contract extension all in one weekend. Not much more you can say than that. Reject of the race for this week, Goodyear. The tire failures are getting fucking ridiculous. I mean, all I can think about is going back to Indianapolis and how many fucking tire failures there were there. It's getting ridiculous, and not to mention expensive for race teams when there are just tire failures left and right. Get your shit together. Get your shit together, Goodyear. Seriously. Where you at, sissy? Let's take a look at the race results and point standings after New Hampshire. What are you doing, cat? Sissy, what are you doing? Huh? You silly cat? Cats. Anywho, let's get into the results. Top 10 finishers from New Hampshire. Brad Keselowski, of course, with the win, led 184 of the race's 301 laps, so pretty obvious why I gave him star of the race. Denny Hamlin comes home in second, led 92 laps, so those two basically led the lion's share of the laps. Martin Truex Jr. comes home in third, still yet to win at his home racetrack. Logano with a fourth place finish. Kevin Harvick, to his credit, you know, despite the shit-tastic strategy that went awry in stage 2, came back for a fifth place finish, but I think he had a much faster car than that. Matt DiBenedetto with a sixth place run, good for him. Eric Almirola with his 9th consecutive top 10 finish. Cole Custer with another top 10 finish himself, so that's 3 SHR cars in the top 10. And you have Chase Elliott and Tyler Reddick rounding out the top 10. Point standings with 6 races remaining until the playoff. Of course, I kind of talked about these a little bit earlier in terms of the silly season shit, but let's talk about it again here. Harvick, of course, with the point lead, 81 points ahead of Brad Keselowski in second, so he's looking like a lock right now for the regular season title. Hamlin, with his runner finish, moves up to third in the championship. Ryan Blaney drops to fourth. You have Chase Elliott in the top 5, and you have Joey Logano and Martin Truex Jr. Eric Almirola is the first driver in points without a win. He's currently 8th right now, although if you switch things around, he's actually, you know, like below 10th. But, you know, this is in terms of who's going to get the bonus playoff points at the end of the year. Kurt Busch in 9th, Kyle Busch in 10th. Then you have Alex Bowman, of course, who won at California earlier this year. Clint Boyer in 12th, Matt DiBenedetto 13th, William Byron, Tyler Reddick, and Austin Dillon. William Byron actually holds the final spot in the playoff at the moment, with Austin Dillon and Cole Custer winning races. earlier this year at Texas and Kentucky, respectively. And then you have Jimmy Johnson, Eric Jones, and Michael McDowell rounding out the top 20. As for my final rating for the Foxwoods Resort Casino 301, man, I so desperately wanted to give this race at least an 8.5 to maybe a 9 out of 10. But there were way too many cautions in this race, 9 overall in a 300-mile race. Not acceptable. And that third stage, those last 60 laps were boring as fuck. I mean, I was literally falling asleep in those last 60 laps. Which is a shame, because the first 2 stages were pretty damn good. I mean, it was some of the best racing I'd ever seen at New Hampshire, to be honest. I mean, because New Hampshire is not exactly known for its tremendous, racing, you know what I mean? A lot of times the racing is just boring as fuck. But those first 2 stages were really good. We had 10 pure lead changes in the first 2 stages. I mean, how crazy is that? You know what I mean? But despite all that, what are you doing in the bag, cat? Damn. But despite all that, despite how shitty the third stage was, this was still a good race overall, because those first 2 stages were pretty damn good. Certainly better than some of the shit that we've seen earlier this year. So my final rating for this race, I'll give it a solid 7 out of 10. It's a good race. It's just a shame that the third stage ended like it did. You know what I mean? Because if it would have at least been something like stage 2, this could have been an 8.5 to a 9 easy. Well, it could have been, but it is what it is. But that's going to do it for this week's edition of The Fuel. Next week, we have a double whammy. The first of 2 double headers that are going to be coming in the next couple weeks. In fact, man, it's going to be a really busy month of August, because we got a double header at Michigan this coming week. Then the week after that, we have the Daytona Road Course. And then the weekend after that, we have a double header at Dover and the Indianapolis 500. And then after that, the season finale at Daytona. August is going to be really busy. But that'll be in the near future. But until then, thank you very much for watching The Fuel here on this Motorsport Monday. And until next time, this is the Packer Man signing out. See you later.
You better like and subscribe or face the consequences. You have been warned.